They practiced on Friday in San Francisco. And Frank Vogel, their coach, said, hey, we got to reset our energy, our mindset. These are our guys that are going to be here. Let's move forward. And you could see a difference when they played the Warriors on Saturday. The energy shift. They were more connected. And to me, it was definitely the best game by Westbrook this month. He had 19, 7, and 5. But there just seemed to be a different thing with him. The pressure was off. He was just playing. There was no frustration. He was playing at the end of the game. He wasn't on the bench. So, yeah, the Lakers lost, but even AD and LeBron acknowledged after the game that, you know, there was a different mindset. There was a lot less pressure, and these guys are moving forward. So, you know, perhaps this is a good move mentally for the Lakers going forward.
And we've seen Klay obviously kind of rebound from the injury, had an incredible game the other night, 33 points, big second half for him. But what do we know about the latest on Draymond Green, Mark?
Well, Draymond Green hasn't played since January 5th. He's been working out on his own with his back injury. But I think there might be a little light at the end of the tunnel. He will not be playing in the All-Star game. But I'm starting to hear some optimism that in about 3 weeks, he will be back on the court, which certainly will be great news for the Warriors. He will be in Cleveland for All-Star. He's looking forward to being around the top 75 players and doing his side job working for Turner. But the Warriors could have him and Wiseman back in their lineup in March, which would be great for their team because it still gives them a month and a half to get on the same page with Klay, who Draymond really hasn't played yet with. Wiseman hasn't played with Klay. Kuminga's playing great. Curry probably wants to get this team set. So the game this month of March is going to be huge for the Warriors, hopefully with a full complement of players for the first time.
Mark Spears, senior writer of The Undefeated. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. All right, man. Take care. All right, look, obviously things with the Lakers have been not so great. It's been a rough season for sure. So the question is, can the Lakers, Richard, turn this thing around and get better as the season goes on?
Well, let me say this. They can play better. They can get better. They have been playing awful. I think they would admit that. No one up here, I don't even think that's a shot at them. So, yes, can it get better? Yes, it can. Are they ever going to get to a spot, in my opinion, with this current roster that they can contend for the Western Conference or they can contend for a championship? That answer is still no, but they can get better. I think at best, if this team kind of got things going, filled some of the gaps, maybe they get to the second round and don't have another first-round loss like they had last year. But what they don't want to do is get into the play-in game, not be playing great basketball, then have to go against an absolute juggernaut in Phoenix or Golden State. That will be a first-round exit for them.
Perk, let me ask you, how do they get better then? Richard says they can get better. How do they get better, and how much of that is on Anthony Davis?
Well, the first thing is they have to play with effort, and I think that's the bright spot we saw on Saturday against the Warriors, that they actually competed. Like, Anthony Davis in the fourth quarter didn't show up big for scoring-wise, but I thought defensively he had a pretty decent impact on the game. But I just think the Lakers just got to, at this point, like, they have too many veterans not to say we're going to figure this out. Like, Russell Westbrook, MVP. LeBron James, 4 times MVP. Anthony Davis, still in his prime at 28 years old. Like, we're not dealing with a bunch of rookies here. So they have to have a coming to Jesus meeting or figure it out or whatever the case may be. But here's where I disagree with RJ at. About the play-in tournament. The play-in tournament actually is the best thing that ever happened for the Lakers, because that actually gives them a better shot of actually getting into the playoffs. Without the play-in tournament, they wouldn't even have a chance. And I understand, look, RJ, I understand what you're saying. They don't want to see the Suns or the Warriors in the first round. I don't even think they want to see the Grizzlies. But we all know that you never know what could happen in the playoffs, that when it comes down to it, that record is 0-0. What you done in the regular season don't even matter. They'll come in as the underdogs. They would definitely be the probably the top 8 or 7 seed to ever be, you know, one of the best 8 or 7 seeds to ever be in the playoffs that you will want to see. So, I mean, the best thing for the Lakers that happened was they got added to play-in tournament.
Well, the interesting part is, and the reason I brought up Anthony Davis was the fourth quarters, when he plays well in the fourth quarter, they win. When he doesn't play well in the fourth quarter, they don't win. They've had a lot of close games, and
so using that metric, he hasn't played well in a lot of fourth quarters because they have not won a lot of games.
Okay, well, look, in games decided by 5 points or less this season, in wins, he's getting 6 points in the fourth quarter, which is pretty good. And in losses, he's averaging less than 4.
Yeah, they just didn't get him involved in the Warriors game. But I think the issue with the Lakers now is management said to this team, this is your team. Make it work. And there's a clarity that comes from not doing something. There's a clarity that comes from management saying, this is the bed you must lie in now. And I think that they are in this place where they look like a team that seemed relieved.
On the bubble to be an NCAA team. That's what they got. And the Lakers couldn't beat them. I went to bed in New York last night after, post game. And I just said, okay, the Lakers will find a way to win this game. And like 3 o'clock, I woke up and looked at my phone, and it's like they had lost that game. It's unbelievable. Talk about not being engaged. But you mean to tell me 55 games you start Russell Westbrook? And I'm not a huge Vogel critic. I'm just not, because I think he's gotten too much of it. But you mean to tell me in 55 games they couldn't figure out to bring him off the bench a few of those games? I said this on the opening night of the season.
You did.
Bring him off the bench. He can start, he can finish, he can play with the second unit. My God, we saw Scottie Pippen play with the second unit of the Bulls through championship teams. Don't tell me this is an insult. That's just a lack of everything that is smart basketball. To try it, if you try it for 5 games, 7 games, 10 games, 15 games, 3 games, and it doesn't work, then go back to something else. But here we are, 60 games into the season, and we're talking about the Lakers trying now to bring Russ off the bench and play with the second unit. That's insane.
Richard?
Good job, Wilbon, because that was everything you said. They lose to an NCAA team, but, at the end of the day, they've been losing to NCAA teams all year long. They lost to Oklahoma City twice. This ain't the first time that this has gone down. So I think the most eye-opening thing, and like Bron in his most humble self said, look, I am in one of the best offensive grooves ever. And for his entire career, offensive grooves. And one of the will you let me finish this terrible statement? If you look at all of his numbers, they look like that, but they normally over the course of his entire career have always led to wins. So Bron is in a great offensive groove, but it's not leading to wins, and this team looks completely disjointed. There is nothing else. That is rock bottom for me. That is rock bottom.
Is it rock bottom for you, Perk?
It is rock bottom because their goal is to win a championship. So for them to be in the position that they're in and not make a move, they're at rock bottom. Because here's the thing. At the rate that the Lakers are going, they're going to get into the playoffs, to play in. They're going to probably get into the playoffs. And guess what? They're probably going to see Golden State, Phoenix, or the Memphis Grizzlies and get bounced the first round. You see that right here? Look at this video. You see how Russ trying to say, hey, this, that, and that. Man, Bron ain't trying to hear that. Bron ain't trying to hear that. I don't know if Russ know Bron too well, but you got to come out here and perform, homie.
I just can't get over the amount of pressure that was on the Lakers to make a move today, coming from inside the organization, from outside. I think I'm a little incredulous that they did make a move, but they held firm to this idea that this is our team. We are not going to go deeper into the luxury tax. We're not going to mortgage more of our future. Make it work. And this is a team that they came up with this summer. Bron, AD, Russ sat together and said, we can make this work. And the message the Lakers front office
could affect Kyrie Irving's status in Barclays Center. But let's start in the West, and let's start with Dallas, shall we? Because Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, he went on Dallas Morning Radio and was asked about Luka Doncic. Take a listen.
I think he was humbled a little bit. I think, he didn't like being called out for his weight and other things. And it finally clicked that, there's a level of discipline that's required. He knows what he needs to do, and it finally clicked that if he's going to be the best, and I know he wants to be the best, that there's certain things he has to control. And once he got a handle on those things, it's just been Katie bar the door. He's just been unstoppable.
So Doncic has played like an all-star starter over his last 10 games since it was announced he did not earn that honor by scoring over 35 points to go with 10.3 rebounds and 9.8 assists per game. And not only has he led the league in scoring over this time, but it's the highest scoring 10-game stretch of his entire career. And I asked him about his recent play when we sat down during All-Star Weekend.
I didn't come ready. into the season. You know, I had a long summer. I was 2 months and something with the national team, so I had a very little break. So that's why I relaxed maybe too much.
All right, so Luka seems like he's rounded into form as of late as we welcome in Kendrick Perkins. Luka Doncic, 45-plus in 3 of his last 4 games. It's including a career-high 51 points against the Clippers on February 10th. And as we enter the second half, are we about to see the best version of Luka Doncic yet down the home stretch of the season? Perk, I want to start with you.
Absolutely. And I want to double down and applaud Luka for getting into shape. And I know it's a lot of people out there that say, oh, he's getting paid $200+ million. That's his job, is to be in shape. Well, he didn't come into shape, and he accepted accountability and responsibility. Look, the great Kevin Garnett always told me, he said, you know what, watch superstars and watch how they act after they get their lettuce. And what we're seeing out of Luka Doncic is we're seeing a great level of commitment. He's playing with great joy. He's driving to the lane, snatching the screws out the basket in traffic, and he's so happy that Kristaps Porzingis is gone. You could just feel the energy, and we are seeing the best. And we are seeing the best version of Luka, and we're going to see the best version of Luka.
Well, I did ask him about Kristaps Porzingis in our conversation. That is going to be airing next week on NBA Today. So that's a little teaser for you. But Ramona, as you look at this version of Luka Doncic, what do you expect for him from the rest of the season?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Malika, is that this is coming from within. This isn't because somebody told him he needed to lose weight or get in better shape. He knows that. He feels that. And I was a little taken aback by Mark Cuban speaking about his weight so openly and so publicly. But the fact that Luka came back and owned it, like, that tells you a lot. I mean, there's not a lot of superstars who want somebody talking, an owner especially, talking about their weight and their conditioning. But he owned it. He talked about it. And by the way, let's revisit this. The best stretch I ever saw Luka Doncic play was in the Clippers series last year. Amazing. But he never stopped. That was late. Remember, last year was late. So then he goes right into the national team. He doesn't have a break. As soon as he comes back this year, he hurts his ankle. So there wasn't time to really play himself into shape as he was planning on. But that was an atypical summer, and I think we have to give him a little credit for that.
Absolutely, Matt.
I mean, thick Luka, medium Luka, skinny Luka. This guy can play basketball, plain and simple. And I think the issue is we're definitely going to see a great Luka second half of the season going into the playoffs. He just doesn't have any help. You know, Perk mentioned Porzingis isn't there. He needs that second guy that's going to do the heavy lifting right along with him. He's going to be amazing. We know that. But who is that second guy that you can consistently count on every night in the playoffs to have between 20 and 22 points a game? They don't really have that anymore. I like Jalen Brunson. I like Hardaway Jr. But to me, they don't have that second guy that's going to really help them propel. And now we're going to be judging Luka based on how far he goes in the playoffs. So to me, he needs more help. But Luka's going to be great.
The Mavericks are 6th in the league in defense. Did you ever think you would see that? I mean, the fact that they have that good a defense takes a lot of the pressure, I think, off Luka. And as you point out, Matt, the lack of a second star. Because if you're playing defense, you can stop anybody. And Luka has actually bought in defensively. Right. Let's not get carried away here. He's not going to be on any all defensive teams. But he's bought in to the accountability that Jason Kidd wants him to bring on that side of the ball.
Go ahead, Big Perk.
Exactly, Ramona, and I think that's a reflection of Jay Kidd and a reflection of a different voice in the locker room for as a former player, former Hall of Famer, a guy that did it at the highest level. Luka has no choice but to respect what Jay Kidd has to say. And I think that was the best hire for Dallas. I think that was the best hire for Luka. And what we're seeing is we're seeing a ripple effect because Jay Kidd has came out in the media and said things about Luka as well, for as, you know, him getting technical fouls, and Luka has owned up to it. So, look, right now, the Dallas Mavericks, the organization is in good hands. They're moving in the right direction. I'm with Matt on this one. They got to get them some help, especially playing in the West where you have the top dogs like Golden State, Memphis, the Suns, and like Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz, but they're moving in the right direction.
Well, you mentioned the playoff picture, so let's take a look at that looking ahead here. The Mavericks, they currently sit in the 5 seed, 1.5 games ahead of reigning MVP Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, and then 1.5 games behind the Utah Jazz for home court advantage in the 4-5 matchup. So out of those 3 teams that are in the middle of the playoff picture out in the West, who has the best chance to make some noise in the postseason and then maybe potentially crash the Western Conference Finals, Matt?
I don't trust any of those three teams because they don't have that second. They don't have that second star. Utah doesn't have that consistent second scorer that I've been saying for a few years they need. If anything, a depleted Denver would have been my choice. We got to remember what Jamal Murray was turning into and what Michael Porter coming off a max rookie extension, the potential he was showing. But out of those three teams, I'm gonna be honest with you, in the playoffs, and Perk can attest, you need that second guy. That when you know your star is going to give you 30 to 35, sometimes 40, you need that second guy that's going to be 20 to 22, 23 every single night. And none of those three teams, Denver because they're depleted, but the other two teams don't have it.
I mean, Rudy Gobert can give you a little something. I know he's
on
not.
On the defensive end, he's a monster.
Absolutely.
No question. But they need that 20-point every night on offense. That I don't think Gobert's capable of that.
If to my recollection, Jamal Murray has not been ruled out necessarily for the rest of the season. It would still be a long shot because we would be coming up on a year in April, and coming back from an injury like that would be tough. Same thing with Michael Porter Jr. What do you think, Big Perk?
I got to go with the Utah Jazz. I think they have no choice but to make some noise this season. Like, we keep watching this team year after year. Like, we're watching them. I know, Matt, but I just think I'm not picking them, but I'm picking out of these three because I'm looking at a Bogdanovich that could go out there and average 18 to 20 in the postseason. I'm looking at Mike Conley. Like, when are you going to elevate your game and consistently give Donovan Mitchell that help that he's been needing out of you? I'm looking at a Jordan Clarkson coming in off the bench, coming in and being that spark, a former sixth man of the year. And I'm with you, Mac. Look, I'm not picking any of those teams to make it to the Western Conference. But if I had to pick out of the three, it would be the Utah Jazz. And I must say, this is probably going to be their last shot. Remember, they just hired Danny Ainge, and Danny Ainge is what? A guy that moves aggressively. So he's not going to continue to put up with this Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. No, one of them guys are going to be gone if this thing don't pan out soon.
All right, Ramona?
I'm also taking the Jazz, and I'm going to go back to my preseason pick because I like teams that stay together. And sometimes I think playoff failure actually bonds you, and you fail until you don't, right? We've said that about the Raptors. We said about a lot of other teams that fail about the Bucks. A lot of other teams that they run into a playoff roadblock year after year after year. You think about if they don't win, they're going to tear the team apart. I feel like Utah's at that stage there. They played together long enough. They have that consistency. They had their little swoon in the middle of the season this year because they were the last team to have a COVID outbreak. Everybody seems to be healthy now. Might I remind you, Jordan Clarkson can score.
Yes.
Jordan Clarkson's Sixth Man of the Year.
I completely agree. I love Jordan Clarkson. I was told everyone else was picking the Jazz, so I had to say something. That's why I'm giving you. But to my point, we've been saying this about the Jazz for the last 3 years. So I'm on Perk's side. You know, they won the West a few years ago. They were the top. They were the top team in the West going into the past few years ago. But we've been saying, like, when is that time? They have shooting, and I love what you said, Ramona. The chemistry outside of the Warriors, Utah and Phoenix, those teams have the most chemistry to me because they have, kind of been together for a while. But again, I think they're still missing that. And I love Jordan Clarkson as a six-man punch who can score in the playoffs, but you need that second star. Mike Conley, Gobert. Will it be one of those guys this year? Because we've been asking that for a few years now.
Well, they've been rapping on the door, right? They've been right there. They've done it in the regular season, but then they've fallen short. They've started to get the reputation as a regular season team, right? So is this the year that they can take it, extend it into the postseason? All right, still ahead. Speaking of the playoffs, I sat down with Steph Curry, and he tells us how his fellow Splash Brothers mentality has rejuvenated himself and the Warriors as they look for a postseason push. Plus, WNBA star Liz Cambage joins the show. Her thoughts on the sparks she can give her new squad. And we dive in Ohio, home of the 2022 NBA All-Star Game. We're in Cleveland. Janae's here. Richard and Perk aren't paying attention, but they will eventually.
I will say, how happy are you to be? Stop, I'm talking. I'm not looking at it though, right?
You're looking at us. Me and Janae are big singers on the show.
You should let me love you.
Let me know what
Oh, it's hard.
Oh, snap.
You're getting to that veteran status. Not having it happens.
RJ wanted everybody to know that he won back in
in 2016.
Oh my God.
Oh, give me that.
Shout out to our entire crew for making these road shows in Cleveland so fun. Our entire squad, I'm Malika Andrews saying thank you, and make sure to enjoy All-Star 2022 from Cleveland.
Hey, me and Perk don't like each other. I don't understand what's the point. No, we don't. No, we don't.
As you saw there, just an awesome few days in the land, and the crown jewel of the weekend was the game itself. Back here with Ramona and Roz, we got to talk about Steph Curry, your 2022 All-Star MVP. My goodness, 16 three-pointers. Yeah, that's a single-game All-Star record, obviously. So, Roz, what was your reaction to the performance as it was happening?
So first of all, Stephen Curry won over that relentlessly booing Cleveland crowd.
They were giving it to
booed
him
all weekend. By like halfway towards the second half of that game, I mean, everybody was in on Steph. They gave it up. They was like, forget that championship y'all won here. like they were everybody, the legends. It was his show. He was scintillating. I actually think that Steph is one of the greatest entertainers of our generation, and that transcends sports even. For me personally, it's Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Stephen Curry.
Oh, wow.
Wow, we have Beyonce here.
Wow.
That's
Michael Jordan and LeBron are looking at this TV going, what did she just say?
Look, have you ever seen a no-look three before? Because that's what he was.
He does
all the time.
But that one was cool.
That one was really good.
The one where he turned around and was like,
Giannis was looking at him like, really, man?
Yeah.
Like,
well, let's listen to Steph after the game. Let's take a listen.
Like, obviously, you know I'm going to come in and shoot a lot of threes, but I got hot early, and then the avalanche started, and kind of put on a little bit of show, and it was fun. Like, there's a good energy in here, even though I got booed earlier. And obviously, I've been in this building a lot, so it was cool. Like, this whole night was special, looking forward to the top 75 team, getting out and playing, you know, with the best guys in the league, and to win an MVP for me, like, that was special, especially with the Kobe Trophy. Such an honor, that being the first year, and I'm glad to take it home.
This guy is from a different planet. He literally has an automatic sniper connected to his arm, and when he lets it go, not only himself, but everybody on the floor, in the stands, on TV, on their phones, whatever you're watching on, you think it's going in every time. 9 times out of 10, sometimes 10 times out of 10, it does go in.
My favorite one was when he did like one that was a three. It looked like a floater. He leg kicked it and just like lobbed it up there. All right, not to be outdone in his home state, LeBron called for the rock when the game was on the line and delivered on Sunday. Hit a fadeaway over Zach LaVine and Joel Embiid to give Team LeBron a 163-160 win. Here's LeBron after the game.
I couldn't have dreamt it. I could not have dreamed of that moment any better than the actuality that just happened. For me to be here today, for my best friends, to be here for my wife and my kids and my family, my mom, and so many people that seen me grow from really a young toddler to who I am today. It was I couldn't picture that moment any better.
He wanted the ball. We all knew that he was going to shoot it, fade away, you know. He wanted to win for the school. I mean, that's why he was going so hard in the fourth. That's why everybody was going hard for the fourth. So just seeing that go in, just seeing the crowd erupt in his hometown, it was cool to see.
Okay, so we just hit on Steph, LeBron, and haven't even mentioned the halftime ceremony yet, which begs the question, what will this All-Star Sunday be most remembered for? So, Big Perk, I see you're off that golf cart with RJ. So what do you make of the weekend? What was the thing that stuck out the most?
Well, I mean, besides the dunk contest being the worst ever, right, in the history of the NBA, I must say it had to be Steph Curry. Like, when you think about Steph Curry, and I heard Roz talk about, you know, Michael Jackson and Beyonce for his entertainment, but we would never, ever, ever, ever see another Steph Curry in our lifetime. When we talk about the greatest shooter of all time, it would never be another him. And I know we always say, you know, records are made to be broken, and there will be someone 50 years down the line that will come. We always said that somebody will be probably better than Mike. They will have another center better than Shaquille O'Neal. they would never have another Steph Curry. And I think what he put on after getting booed and turned those boos into cheers, that showed the definition of the Mamba mentality, and that's the reason he deserved, because of his play and the way that he came and approached it. I applaud him because he deserved that trophy, he earned it, and I just wanted to give him his flowers.
For me, it was the halftime ceremony. And again, I was in Cleveland, and seeing all of the top 75 players in one place at one moment and one time, I really tried to be present with it. And also, if you're being thoughtful about it, this 75-year window of the league, it's a very special, unique moment in time where the majority of these players are alive. You know, like when we come back and do the next 25 and we look at, you know, the top 100 list, we may be mourning a lot more of these players. So it's a very unique moment in time that I certainly did not take for granted, that to watch the brotherhood amongst different generations of legends in the NBA. And then another thing that stood out to me was I watched all the different crowd roaring and appreciation of all the different players as they came out. And I was like, who's closing it out after Magic? And then like a bald head emerged, and it was Michael Jordan, and the place went nuts. It was like, you know, we do all these debates about who's the greatest ever or top 5 lists. It was really clear in that moment when MJ walked out that, you know, there's a lot of elite, amazing guys, but that's Michael Jordan. It was crazy. And it wasn't just fans, it was the other legends, it was players and coaches. Many people in that arena actually were under the impression that Michael Jordan would not be showing up, so it was a really nice surprise.
Well, also, did they forget how many times he broke their hearts in Cleveland? I mean, I still can see
Clearly
that.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, for me, there was so many great moments, but Karl Towns winning the three-point contest. The three-point contest was the highlight of Saturday night. Am I right? Like that? Can we end with the three-point contest, because that was way better than dunk contest? But first big man to win the three-point contest, and he was on a roll. Like he hit 29. That was tough for everyone. I thought Luke Kennard, Trae Young, they were right on his heels, but he put that bar so high, no one was going to top him. To have a big man out there, that is awesome to win the three-point contest in that spot, especially putting up a number like that.
Yeah, and he did it with the chain with his mom's name on it, which was awesome to see, obviously, as well. It says that now they're even more connected than they were. And then, of course, for me, we got to talk about the finale, the man who closed it out, King James, Perk's old teammate, all right, closing that thing out in Cleveland. I thought D-Wade nailed it. He built those rims. He knows how those rims work, and he took care of business in the fourth quarter with the Elam ending, which obviously we love. Like that thing. That needs to be in the midseason tournament when they do that, by the way. That's just a suggestion I saw on Twitter by our guy Trevor Lane, who covers the Lakers. But yes, it is King James and closing it out on top of all the things that you guys have already mentioned. All right, speaking of which, up next on NBA Today, what King James didn't say about his GM, Rob Pelinka, and what he did say about playing with his son, Bronny. Don't miss that, and don't miss our